I still remember the morning my Uncle Walt stood at the end of that weathered dock in Lake Martin, Alabama, holding nothing but a bare treble hook wrapped in what looked like a crumpled ball of Reynolds wrap. He was 72 years old then, and I was convinced he'd finally lost it. But when he pulled his sixth largemouth bass out of that water before I'd even gotten my first bite on a $5 crankbait, I stopped laughing. That was 1987. I haven't forgotten it since. What you're about to see isn't some viral fishing hack or secret lure company conspiracy. It's a test, a real one. 10 cents worth of standard aluminum foil wrapped around a bare hook versus modern soft plastics that cost $3 per pack. Same water, same day, same conditions. And the results aren't what most people would expect. If you're interested in seeing how these simple old methods actually perform against what we're told to buy, consider subscribing. That's exactly what this channel is about, testing what used to work and finding out if it still does. The lake I'm fishing today sits just outside Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's early June. Water temperature's holding right around 78 degrees. There's a light southwestern wind pushing across the surface, just enough to put a ripple on it. The sky's overcast, but not heavy. It's the kind of day where base should be moving, but they're not always cooperative. I've got two identical spinning rods rigged up. One's got a standard soft plastic worm in watermelon color. The other's got a size 2 treble hook with a small piece of aluminum foil pressed tight around the shank. That's it. No scent, no added weight. Just foil. I'm starting in about 8 feet of water near a submerged brush pile I marked last month. The modern setup goes in first. I'm working it slow, letting it fall, twitching it every few seconds. Nothing. I give it a solid 10 minutes, covering the same area methodically. Not a tap. Now the foil rig. I pinch the foil around the hook until it's compressed into a rough ball about the size of a dime. It's not pretty. It doesn't look like anything a fish should want. But I cast it out to the same spot, let it sink, and start a slow retrieve with occasional pauses. Walter Eugene Brennan was the man who first showed me this. Born in 1924 in a small town outside Montgomery, Alabama. Fought in World War II, came back, and spent the next 60 years fishing every inland lake and river he could reach. Walt didn't own a boat until he was 55. He fished from banks, docks, and borrowed canoes. He didn't have money for fancy lures, but he caught fish consistently. His logic was simple. If it moves, if it flashes, if it creates vibration, base will investigate. Aluminum foil does all three. Walt told me he learned it from his own father during the Depression, when buying lures wasn't even a consideration. They'd take the foil from cigarette packs, from food wrapping, even from the kitchen. They'd fold it, twist it, wrap it tight around hooks they'd sharpened by hand. And they caught fish. Crappie, bass, catfish. It didn't seem to matter. The method spread quietly through the South, passed along docks and riverbanks, never written down, never sold. By the time the 1970s came around and plastic lures exploded, the foil method faded, but it never stopped working. I'm 20 minutes in now. The soft plastic has gotten 2 follows that I could see, but no strikes. The foil rig just got its first hit. It wasn't subtle. The line snapped tight, and I felt weight immediately. I set the hook and bring in a largemouth, maybe 1.5 pounds. Not a giant, but it's the first fish of the day, and it came on 10 cents of foil. I release it and cast the same rig back out. The wind's picking up slightly now, pushing the boat just a bit, and I have to adjust my angle. The water's got a light chop on it. Visibility's decent, but not crystal clear. I can see down about 3 feet before it fades into that greenish-brown haze Alabama lakes are known for. I switch back to the soft plastic. I want this to be fair. I work the same brush pile, same depth, same retrieve. 5 minutes pass, then 10. Nothing. I swap back to the foil. This time I'm letting it fall all the way to the bottom before I start the retrieve. On the third cast, I get another hit. This one's harder. The rod bends deeper, and I know it's a better fish before I even see it. When it breaks the surface, it's close to 3 pounds. Solid fish. It hit the foil on the drop, right as it was sinking past the brush. I bring it in, unhook it carefully, and let it go. 2 fish on foil, 0 on plastic. I'm not drawing conclusions yet, but I'm paying attention. I move to a different spot about 100 yards down the bank. There's a fallen oak tree that's been submerged for years. The top branches are just under the surface, and it's a known holding spot for bass in this lake. I start with the plastic again. I'm being deliberate about this. I want to give the modern lure every chance. I cast it parallel to the tree, let it sink into the branches, and work it out slowly. I get 1 bump. That's it. Could have been a stick. Could have been a fish. I'm not sure. The foil goes in next. Same approach. I'm casting it into the same tangle of branches, letting it drop, pulling it free carefully so I don't lose the rig. On the second cast, I get a strike as soon as it clears the wood. Another largemouth. This one's smaller, maybe a pound, but it's aggressive. It hit hard and fought well for its size. That's 3 fish on foil now. Still nothing definitive on the soft plastic. I'm not celebrating yet, but the pattern's forming. What's interesting here is how bass are reacting to the foil itself. When you compress aluminum foil around a hook, it doesn't just sit there like a static lure. Every movement you make with the rod translates into erratic motion in the water. The foil catches current, shifts unpredictably, and most importantly, reflects light. Even on overcast days like this, there's enough ambient light in the water to make that foil flash, and bass are wired to react to flash. It triggers their predatory instinct. It mimics the scales of a baitfish catching sunlight as it turns. The foil also creates vibration. As it moves through the water, the edges flutter. That sends out a signal through the water column that bass can detect with their lateral line system. They don't need to see it clearly to know something's there. There's a biological reason this works, and it's tied to how bass hunt. Their lateral line is a sensory organ that runs along both sides of their body. It detects pressure changes, vibrations, and movement in the water. When a piece of foil is moving erratically, it's creating constant pressure shifts that the bass interprets as a wounded or fleeing baitfish. The flash adds a visual confirmation. The combination is effective because it appeals to 2 separate sensory systems at once. Modern lures try to replicate this with rattles, paddle tails, and holographic finishes. But those features add cost. Aluminum foil does the same thing for almost nothing. I've moved again. This time I'm fishing a shallow flat with scattered grass beds. Depth's only about 4 feet here. Water's a little clearer because of the vegetation. I can see the bottom in most places. I cast the foil rig out and let it settle on top of a grass patch. I twitch it once and it slides off into open water. Instantly, I see a shadow move. A bass comes up from underneath and takes the foil without hesitation. I set the hook and fight it in. It's another solid fish, just over 2 pounds. That's 4 now, all on aluminum foil. I finally get a bite on the soft plastic about 10 minutes later. It's a smaller bass, barely a pound, and it hits tentatively. I bring it in, but it's not the same kind of confident strike I've been getting on the foil. The light's starting to shift now. The clouds are breaking up slightly, and there's more direct sunlight hitting the water. This actually makes the foil even more effective. The flashes are sharper, more defined. I cast back into the same grass flat and immediately get another hit. This one's a good fish. It runs hard and pulls drag. I keep steady pressure and work it out of the grass. When I finally get it to the boat, it's the biggest bass of the day so far, pushing close to 4 pounds. It hit the foil on the initial drop, right as it was sinking through the first 2 feet of water. That's 5 fish on foil now, 1 on soft plastic. I'm not cherry-picking here. I'm fishing the same areas, the same structure, the same way with both rigs. The foil is simply outperforming. And it's not just about numbers. The strikes on the foil have been more aggressive, more committed. The bass aren't inspecting it and turning away. They're hitting it hard and fast, like they're reacting on pure instinct. The soft plastic, when it does get attention, gets a more cautious response. The fish seem to study it longer before deciding. I spend another 30 minutes rotating between the two setups. The foil rig lands 2 more bass. Both are around 1.5 pounds. The soft plastic gets 1 more follow that I can see, but no hookup. By the time I'm ready to call it, the count is 7 bass on aluminum foil, 1 on a $3 soft plastic worm. Same lake, same conditions, same angler. The only variable was the lure itself. Now, I'm not saying soft plastics don't work. They absolutely do. There are situations where a specific profile, scent, or action is exactly what bass want. But what this test shows is that you don't need to spend money to catch fish. You need to understand what triggers a strike and how to present it. Aluminum foil wrapped around a bare hook does that. It's simple, it's cheap, and based on today, it's effective. Walter Brennan passed away in 2003. He fished until the year before he died, still using methods he'd learned 80 years earlier. He never bought into the idea that newer automatically meant better. He didn't reject modern gear out of stubbornness. He just didn't need it. His tackle box was filled with hand-tied rigs, homemade sinkers, and yes, rolls of aluminum foil. He caught fish his entire life, and he did it without spending hundreds of dollars on lures that promise results but don't always deliver. The aluminum foil method isn't just a Depression-era survival tactic. It's a reminder that fishing is about understanding fish behavior, not about owning the latest product. When you strip away the marketing and the packaging, what you're left with is simple physics and biology, light reflection, vibration, erratic movement. These are the things that make bass strike, and they don't require expensive materials. They require observation and a willingness to try what works, even if it doesn't come from a tackle shop. I've tested this method in multiple states now: Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, Florida. It's worked in all of them. The fish don't care what the lure costs. They care how it moves and what it looks like in the water. Aluminum foil, when used correctly, checks every box. It's reflective, it moves unpredictably, and it triggers the predatory instinct that drives bass to strike. 7 fish in just under 3 hours using a method most people would laugh at. 1 fish on a modern soft plastic that's marketed as a proven bass catcher. The results speak clearly. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. If you appreciate practical fishing like this, consider subscribing. It helps the channel grow and keeps these tests coming. And if someone ever showed you something like this, an old method that still works, I'd genuinely like to hear that story in the comments.